and welcome to the Monday Night Football Show here at Radio Saltire, based in Trinent. I am your host for this evening, Scott McIntosh, and I will be joined by our resident Hibby, Craig Leitch. Say hello, Craig.
Hello, Craig.
And we've also got Sean as well, who's currently standing in the background, just making sure that I'm doing things correctly, seeing as I'm standing in for Sam. So say hello, Sean.
Hello.
Okay, guys, so we're basically going to start by reviewing the weekend action. We're going to try and keep it pretty, sharp and tight so that we can, spend most of tonight's programme focusing on the big derby match. Now, we're going to, first of all, start with the Hibs game. It was Hibs 2, Celtic 4 at Hampden on Saturday lunchtime kick-off. So, Craig, I just want your sort of initial reaction to the result, and then we'll start picking away at certain aspects of the game, if that's all right. So just give me your sort of brief thoughts on how you thought the game went.
Disappointing. Ultimately, a team like Celtic, you can't be giving them effectively 3 goals. Giving them 1, bad enough. 2, inexcusable, but 3 is just downright shocking. You're never going to get, you struggle. We would struggle against teams like Kilmarnock, Partick Thistle, giving them 2-3 goals. Given a team like Celtic, you're just, you're making it so difficult for yourself.
Would it be fair to say, I was trying to pick away at what we could focus on first of all with regards to the game, because although there were 6 goals, I felt that neither team really actually stamped their authority for a certain part of the game. It was quite a bitty game. Celtic looked as if they had a few gears maybe to hit, and so did Hibs, to be fair, although they came more onto a game in the second half. Now, would you say that it's maybe, too simplistic to say that what Hibs needed to do was just press higher up the park, similar to what Dundee done the week before? Because there is also the hindsight's an exact science, but also the fact that when Dundee done it, they were playing up against probably a weaker Celtic team in the league, the week before as well, with regards to Brown and Armstrong not being available. Would you say that that's how Hibs should have started the match, or do you think that how they actually set up at the start was the right way about it?
I suppose, like you say, hindsight's a great thing. They would have been tired after being given the runaround in Munich during the week, and potentially we should have looked to exploit that. But you would need to have different personnel on the side. If you're wanting to press them high, you need pace. So doing it with just Barker wouldn't have made sense. Boyle would have had to have been in there for me if you wanted to press them high. But the danger of pressing them high is that, if you're pressing them high and you're leaving gaps yourself, the team with quality like that, because that's effectively their first 11. You can swap out, say, Armstrong for Rogic or whatever. Forrest has done quite well for them recently, but a team like that, you've seen the quality that they brought on with Dembele later on during the game. If you try and press them high, there's always the danger that they could just pick you apart. So no, I think possibly somewhere in, I guess what we went with was somewhere in the middle, pace on one side, and sort of trying to, maybe hold off them a wee bit and try and break on them. But then, for me, we still need pace in the side, and I don't think we had enough of that on Saturday to actually make that great of an impact. That's why you've seen that we had the poor first half that we did.
I think that's probably a valid point with regards to, the potential fault or flaw with regards to pushing a team like Celtic so high up the park, especially on as wide a park as Hampden is, would have been the fact that Celtic have players, so you would have been starting with McGregor, who can play in between the lines, and then Rogic coming on in the second half, who can do something similar. If you can't press and get to the ball quick enough, as you mentioned, if you didn't have pace on either flanks, then naturally Celtic would have eventually have probably torn you apart with that as well. So it's maybe just a case of Hibs maybe just having to accept that although you could maybe pick away at how Neil Lennon started the team and how he implemented that shape during the first 45 minutes, you're playing against the champions. They're unbeaten now for over a year domestically, and sometimes you've just got to accept that you're playing against a stronger team. Sort of moving on then into the first half and looking at the first 2 goals. Now, I don't think we really need to talk too much about the goalkeeping errors, because
I'll be here all night.
I know. Well, there isn't really a lot to say. I think there isn't really a lot to discuss or debate about that. I think just about everyone, Stevie Wonder, blindfolded in a dark basement, could probably see that the keeper's at fault for both those goals. But the problem that I wanted to highlight is something that I feel that's been affecting Hibs probably all season so far, and that's Hibs looking quite culpable at set plays and cross balls. How much does that worry you moving forward, that part of their game still doesn't seem to have been picked up on, or at least if they are working on it in training, the players aren't taking that instruction onto the games and they're allowing themselves to switch off?
Well, I mean, as much as you want it, I mean, maybe not so much for the first goal, but for me, Laidlaw's completely culpable for the second goal. The attempt that he makes to save it was just not good enough, and you can see why he was a Wraith Rovers third choice, with goalkeeping like that. But then, before it even gets to the goals, it's just basic switching off. Lustig, Barker's just not aware of where Lustig is at all and gets a run on him. And then for the second goal, it's Gray's marking Lustig at the corner, and then there's that weird, where they all sort of bunch together and then break, and Lustig just runs right off the back of him. And when you've got someone like Griffiths who can deliver set plays the way that he can, you have to be switched on, because he can put it near post, far post, he can put it right on the keeper's 6-yard box, wherever. So, it is, for me, it's individual errors that cost the goals. We've not been cut open by, a sublime bit of play, or, if you want to go back to like Henderson's corners at Hampden for us, they were well worked set plays. These weren't well worked set plays. The first one was, a cross for the wide area that's obviously broken out for a shot, and the second one's a corner that there's just no marking up. I'm more concerned with this, this weird feeling that we have to give teams a goalie a start, because that's now, I think it's out of the 10 games we've played, it's either 7 out of 9 or 8 out of 10 that we have fallen behind in games. And if we're looking to do anything this season, we have to stop that. Like, there's no ifs, buts or maybes. That is the one thing that needs to be corrected. This insistence on giving teams, a goal head start is a nightmare, and it's especially when we're looking at a game. I know we'll get onto it, but taking an example, a game like tomorrow, where a goal head start, and we're not getting back in that game, especially if we keep doing it as early as we do.
I think you're right about that being a momentum killer, and it's, you can look at losing early goals sort of two ways. If you're coming back and you're getting the points and you're climbing up the league table and you're seeing off teams in cup games, then it's not as big a worry. But if you find yourself winning one game and so many, and then sort of losing games as well in the big cup matches, then naturally that becomes a severe momentum killer for Hibs. So that's naturally something that Neil Lennon, I'm sure, will be touching on, and I'm sure he has been discussing it with the players since the start of the season.
It's not just that though, we all know, for Hibs fans' perspectives and opposition fans' perspectives, when a team goes 1-0 up, we struggle to break them down.
Yeah.
There is instances where, this season, the Partick game, that was just, the momentum, probably the momentum of the crowd and the occasion of the day, being back in the Premier League got us into it. The Rangers game, them going down to 10 men, probably, you can't argue that it didn't change the game. Other games, it's just this, we can't be building up momentum, and the defence will be going to be shot to pieces as well, confidence-wise, because we're not getting clean sheets. We're not getting a chance to build up confidence in the defence. Whether that's because of the change in personnel, the one thing that I commented on, on shows last season and the season before, was how settled the back four was. It was pretty straightforward. It was Gray, Fontaine, Hanlon, and then Stevenson, and then McGregor's came in and made it even. McGregor came in for me and made it even more solid. Now you've got Whittaker sometimes playing at right back, sometimes at left back. Gray's in for a game, out for a game. Whittaker's in for him. Ambrose and Hanlon, for me, don't look that comfortable appearing in the smaller occasion games. Saturday, I thought the two of them, especially Hanlon, played really well. But it's the momentum getting, we're not getting a chance to build up any momentum because it's getting drained, because we're giving teams a goal head start within the first 15, 20, possibly even 30 minutes.
Moving on again, sort of going back to that personnel that was picked in for the start of the match. Now, this is something that we actually highlighted on one of our earlier shows this month, and we talked about Slivka starting out wide right. Now, naturally, you understand the decision making there, because you want someone to maybe have that inclination to want to sort of tuck in, so that they can then become a midfield four, especially against a team like Celtic, where probably the strongest area of the park is probably their central midfield area. Do you feel though that on Saturday Neil Lennon maybe should have looked at the game as a one-off cup match, have a go, and maybe should have started with Boyle and Barker so that it looked like a more natural 4-3-3 when Hibs were attacking?
Possibly, but then if, when you look at it, we go 2-0 down, and then Boyle, the chance for Boyle to come on and, change the game plan. If we start with both Barker and Boyle, where, if we're still 2-0 down, where's the change that we can make to liven the team up a bit? I thought the game could have been there for us down that left hand side. I thought Barker had Lustig on toast to start with. There was a period, I think, where there was about 3 of them round him, and he just absolutely smoked them for pace. But there wasn't enough of that in the first half. This insistence on playing balls up to Stokes, who's not there because he's dropping deep and there's nobody to play off of him. Slivka was pretty much anonymous. Bartley's in there to do the dirty stuff, which he does well. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about incidents and that, but I think there's a few areas which in the first half, if subtle small changes are made, we don't go in 2-0 down at half time. Those individual errors. I thought personally that Lustig was lucky to still be on the park after the challenge on Ambrose, where he went in kind of studs up a wee bit and caught him in the knee, and done a weird swan dive afterwards to obviously try and take the rest attention off of that. But no, going back to the original question, I think we probably set up correctly because it then gave us an option of changing the game further down the line, if we had to, which obviously done at half time.
And you're right, Craig, I didn't ask you about the referee's performance, but thanks for chiming in with that anyway. I can tell that you definitely wanted to get that off your chest. Moving on then further up the park, it looked as if Anthony Stokes, this is just as a neutral, I don't watch him week in, week out, but he doesn't look like he's suited for a sort of 4-5-1/4-3-3 system, especially in a match like that where you probably are going to find that possession is scarce at times, and you're going to have to maybe try and play a bit of possession football and have your front man maybe running the channels and trying to sort of just press on the back four. That's where you can see the difference between someone like Griffiths and Stokes. Griffiths can give you that option, not really what I would imagine is probably Stokes' sort of strength. But that's not what I wanted to sort of touch on today. I actually wanted to discuss the changes that were made in the second half with regards to the decision to go with Ollie Shaw ahead of Simon Murray. Now, let's first of all touch upon the positive. It was a great immediate impact, great run for the goal, but also I thought that the composure he showed, because you can see a lot, even with forward players, if it's their first touch and they maybe haven't broken their stride yet, they can sometimes just lash and snap at those chances. So first of all, your impression of Ollie Shaw's impact over the 20 minutes he was on, but also maybe just discuss briefly, the decision making behind Simon Murray not being given a chance, and maybe what that might mean for him sort of over the coming weeks and months. I mean,
Hibs fans have been speaking for a while now about Ollie Shaw. He's been banging the goals, and I know it's a completely different level playing in the development league to playing in the a League Cup semi-final. But strikers will score goals no matter what level they're at. We've seen that with Cummins. I think with Shaw, first of all, like you say, it was a brilliant finish. Some strikers could have taken a touch, could have like you say, sclaffed it a bit, but he knows where he is. You see him on the replay, he's pointing to Whittaker where he wants it. He's telling Whittaker where he wants it, and the composure that he showed to tuck it away first time was brilliant. And I watched Neil Lennon's interview after the game with Hibs TV, and it was pretty much a case of Lennon said, we need to give the laddie a chance sometime. And I quite admire Lennon for that. Chuck him in at the highest level, this season, unless we get, any further, if we go far in the Scottish. But you're not going to get much bigger than a semi-final against the holders at Hampden. And he took his chance really well, and I thought he gave us something different, because you could see Stokes became a bit more involved in the game as well, because he had a partner up there with him. Like you say, Stokes isn't suited to that 4-5-1 with a lone striker role. We all know his strength is coming in off the left hand side, making it difficult for defenders facing them up. In terms of Simon Murray, I don't know if it was just a case of it was 3-1 at the time. Maybe Lennon's thinking, right, game's possibly away from us. Let's get Shaw on, get a feel for it, get a feel for that that big game feeling. Maybe it'd been a bit of a waste to have Murray, using up energy when he might be used tomorrow night. So I don't think there's anything too concerning with it. But then you look at it on the flip side, is that Ollie Shaw's now put himself in contention for a place in the team.
Okay, good stuff. Well, I think that kind of pretty much covers all the major sort of talking points in terms of the football. I don't really want to highlight too much about the referee's performance.
Did you think it was a penalty?
No, personally no. I thought that there was enough deviation on the ball to determine that he did get a touch, although to be fair, that deviation gets picked up on through the slow-mo replays, so I can understand why, going through it at real game time, why the linesman might have sought for his angle and given the penalty. So I can understand both sides of the argument, but for me, after seeing, having the benefit of seeing it played back, I wouldn't have given a penalty for that. But and I really didn't think, although Clancy can be a bit of a fussy referee, I didn't think that he officiated the game that really, was detrimental to either side. Celtic potentially, if Hibs had came back into the game and, went on and won the tie, but it didn't really have an overall huge bearing on the match. So I just wanted to sort of finish up the chat about the weekend with regards to Hibs' involvement and sort of discuss just very briefly and touch on the fans' debate regarding the unsold tickets. Now, as a neutral, I found it quite fascinating that it drew so much press attention, just purely because, for me, this has been a big problem with semi-final attendances for a number of years now. I've been to a number of Hearts games against the Old Firm, primarily 2 games in particular against Celtic in the Scottish Cup, where we've taken a pretty similar crowd through to what Hibs had. And a lot was made about pricing, about the timing of the game, about the fact that Hibs have got a derby coming up. But really, as a neutral, I would say that it was just an indication that a lot of Hibs fans felt that they weren't going to win and therefore decided not to go through. And I think if Hibs had been playing Motherwell, there would have been a bigger crowd, and it's that simple. Would you agree with that, Craig, or would you say that there was something else behind the sort of low turnout on Saturday?
Possibly. I don't think that you can take away the pricing factor for some people. 30-35 quid for a League Cup semi-final is just nothing short of a joke, to be honest. When we went to Tynecastle and played St Johnstone, I think the tickets were 15-20 quid. So that's a big difference, especially if you're a family of 4, want to take your 2 adults, 2 kids, travel through there, food and whatever. When you're through there, you're looking at 100-150 quid. But
would you say with those same prices they would have sold more tickets if they'd been playing against a team that they thought they could beat?
No.
Okay.
Because we never sold it at allocation for Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup semi last season.
I think the biggest difference is probably the fact that because they are playing against Celtic, your average punter who doesn't go on a weekly basis but would go to a day out to Hampden didn't necessarily want to go because they're no fancying their chances against Celtic. I think that's where it does affect who you're playing against.
I don't think that. I think that's got a small part to play in it, definitely. But I think that the costing stuff in that involved. And I mean, folk are having a go. Like Tom English was gone mental on Twitter about it. That's the highest attended semi-final featuring Celtic in 20 years.
Well, that's where I thought it was.
That's what I mean. And I'm not saying this to have a go, but that includes Scottish Cup semi-finals. Now, for me, the Scottish Cup is more prestigious than the League Cup. You look at the Hearts Inverness attendance at Easter Road. So that's a semi-final in the own city. 12,000 went. So I think it's just another way for certain sections of the media and some supporters to have a go at Hibs and Hibs fans. For me, I was surprised that I've been to Hampden and we've taken less. We played Dunfermline in the semi-final of a cup, took less. Played Ayr United in the semi-final of the League Cup and took less. Played Rangers and took less.
I would say they were midweek games, though, to be fair.
Aye, but Ayr United, you'd still expect fans to go through expecting a big win with that one. We've played Living, I could go on and name the teams. It's just purely because Celtic fans are greeting that they never got the chance to go, because obviously they've got more season ticket holders than even, what is it?
But even that wasn't really highlighted correctly. I think what the press failed to capitalise on with regards to the argument was the fact that Celtic have actually not always sold out their allocation.
Aye, where were these people when Celtic weren't selling it under Dyla, when Parkhead was half empty?
I think this is more an indication of where Celtic currently are, and that demand is now there again, whereas it maybe hasn't been as much over the last sort of 6 or 7 years. But rather than focus on it that way, I think they just primarily just looked at the Hibs crowd and based it all on Hibs, when in fact I think you could swap Hibs with Aberdeen, Hearts, Dundee United, whoever, and you'd get a similar crowd to be.
Well, Aberdeen didn't even sell out their allocation for the final last year.
Yeah,
they didn't sell out their allocation for the game. The crowd that we had on Saturday was similar to what Aberdeen had against us in the Scottish Cup semi-final last year. So I think it's a complete non-story, and the fact that it's riled not only Celtic fans but sections of the media makes it even sweeter.
Well, I hope everyone listening in's maybe got an opinion. You can even get in touch with us on our Twitter and Facebook pages with regards to that over the next day or two if you wish. But what we're going to do next is just go to some adverts, and then we'll come back and we will speak to Sean with regards to his thoughts about our win over St Johnstone on Saturday. Stay tuned.
Music for Scotland. Radio Saltire. Radio Saltire.
And we're back on Monday Night Football on Radio Saltire. Thanks for sticking with us. So going to get a bit more of a positive spin with regards to the weekend's action. I know that was pretty hard for Craig with regards to me harassing him about all the sort of negative stuff regarding Hibs' display. So Sean, let's talk Hearts 1, St Johnstone 0 at Murrayfield, which, if anyone's read anyone's Anne Budgie's statement this evening, will know that this is fast becoming our permanent home, at least for the time being. What was your initial thoughts with regards to the performance and the scoreline?
I think I'm probably more positive about it than a lot of people have been. Yes, it wasn't the most free-flowing, most entertaining game I've ever seen in my life, but Hearts got a 1-0 win. Never conceded any goals. Another wee one for the momentum going forward. So I was fairly happy with that. It's the atmosphere at Murrayfield is still strange because it is not our home, but at the same time it almost feels like a bit of a day out when you go in. It does feel that wee bit different. It brings back memories of Hearts against Barcelona or Hearts playing in Europe that gives it that wee bit more atmosphere. What you lose at Tynecastle with the actual noise of the crowd, you get somewhat of, I think the players feel like it's maybe that wee bit more than just a normal game playing there. So look, the main thing is we got a win out the game. I think we were the better team. I think the stats go to show that, as I'm sure we'll go into. But all in all, I was fairly pleased with the game. The rain stayed off as well, so I stayed nice and dry. That was definitely helpful.
With regards to the system then, we'll sort of cover that part of the game first of all. Now, it looked as if Hearts were setting up primarily to be a 4-5-1. Now, that's been given quite a negative narrative so far with regards to the way that the game has been analysed either on TV or in the press since Saturday. Now, for me, looking at it, I think that we're already starting to implement a shape and system with the games at Tynecastle coming up over the next couple of months in mind, and that 4-5-1 will develop into more of a 4-2-4 once we've got the personnel that we want with regards to our midfield. What was your general impression as to how that worked out, specifically in the first half before we made some changes?
I think the biggest thing to come from the formation we have at this moment in time is it gives us solidity at the back. I think the personnel that we've brought in definitely helps that. And it should be no surprise to anyone that Craig Levine's came in and been able to actually, after a couple of weeks, get some solidity in a backline. But that's the biggest thing it gives us, especially when we've got a questionable centre midfield at this point in time, especially in the first half. Although we didn't look like we were going to be carving out loads of chances at the other end, it didn't look like we were going to give much away at our end. Going on further into the game, or further up the pitch, should I say, the final third, I think we're definitely trying to take somewhat of the Ajax mould of, well, you hear Thierry Henry speak about when he was at Barcelona under Pep Guardiola, the first 2/3 of the park, you stay in your position. You don't go anywhere. You stay in your position. You go from there. Final third, there's that fluidity. You can move. Those 4 players getting forward, Milinkovic, Walker, Lafferty and Isma, in that final third, less so from the right, but the other 3 had that fluidity to switch positions, and people would take up the gap that was there, which is a brilliant thing for bamboozling defences and trying to open up gaps, especially if you've got a midfield runner coming, that you're getting that fluidity from there. So I think it's going to need a bit of work, especially when we get that centre midfield sorted out a bit more, when we can get the players, the first choice players in there who can get a foot on the ball and control more of the play. That'll definitely come. But I think just now the main thing is we are looking very solid at the back. We're giving up very little chances. We've taken away a threat that teams were having against us. Look at the Dundee game, how many opportunities we were given from set pieces. It doesn't. St Johnstone have exploited us over the years from set pieces numerous times. I still get headaches from that time that Murray Davidson kept on getting free and scoring headers at Tynecastle. That was just the worst. There wasn't anything close to that at the weekend. I think it was always going to become one of our strengths after that Dundee game, because it was such a glaring weakness. I'm pretty sure at least a couple of the days, the training the week after, would have been spent on that. So yes, going forward definitely needs to be improved on, but the main thing for me, that the formation and the personnel we've got just now, is the solidity we get from the back. The one thing we have there is, like we're seeing with the centre midfield, especially at centre half, if we get an injury, then it's possibly panic stations. I think that's definitely somewhere we're going to look in January, because Suter and Berra look very, very strong together just now. If you take one of them out, especially when you've not got Hughes to come in at this point in time, then it's definitely a worry, because you're looking at Buabin or Novak, and I don't think anyone's particularly comfortable with them playing at centre half at this moment in time.
I'm glad you sort of touched on again the sort of midfield sort of area, and I think that was a major driving factor behind how we started the game, particularly in the first half. Again, it was just something that I felt again was missed upon by certain other sort of pundits and journalists. Now, for me, I don't think that Hearts were given an instruction to play long from the back and play long diagonal balls up to a very isolated Goncalves in the first half. For me, I felt that became a part of our game as the first half wore on, due to the fact that Boabin in particular's game was very ponderous. He was dithering on the ball, he was too one-paced, and that lack of pace and tempo meant that the centre halves, even Suter, who normally likes to play from the back, was more inclined to then start playing that percentage football and just see if we could just sort of get the ball higher up the park just by going more sort of route one and direct. We then made that change at half time. Harry Cochrane came on for Boabin, and some people might say Boabin was on a booking anyway, maybe it was based on that, but for me, I think Craig Levein just probably felt the need to maybe try and switch it up in there and get someone who could maybe bit more positive, bit more looking forward with regards to their play and their touch on the ball. How much of an impression do you think that sub sort of made on how we actually started the second half? And we did seem to want to sort of build from the back a bit more.
As you say, I think it was pivotal with Hearts being able to actually get a stranglehold on the attacking side of the game. Everyone knows Prince Boabin, especially more latterly in his Hearts career, has become a very defensive-minded player. He quite often he's somewhat taken up the role that Perry Kitchen left behind, of sideways or backwards passes. He's always looking for that simple option, and sometimes to the detriment of our play and to the detriment of the pass that he should play. Harry Cochrane, it very well could possibly be down to the naivety of youth. It could be down to just that's how he plays his game, but is much more inclined to actually get his head up and look for a forward pass. I think that helped Ross Callaghan when he came on as well, because Callaghan does do a lot of the dog work, and I think certain formations will flatter him, the way he plays, more than the way we're playing just now. But I think that allowed him to take less of the onus of trying to make something happen going forward and do more of the battling in the midfield, which we know for a fact, a 16-year-old laddie, that's not going to be a strong suit. So Harry Cochrane, look, you see the way John Souttar's been speaking about him today in the papers as well. Everyone doesn't necessarily want to get carried away with him, but everyone can see there's talent there to be had. 15 years on from Wayne Rooney scoring his goal at Arsenal, it's never been more true that if you're good enough, then you're old enough. And I think that showed the fact that Cochrane was a marked improvement on Prince Buaban in that game. Yes, we are going to have to watch his situation and nurse him over the season, because too much first team football has been proven to burn players out at a very early age. But there's definitely something there to be had, and he definitely was a huge factor going forward from half time in that game. Especially, I mean, you look at the burst of energy he's got going forward with the last kick of the ball, basically, when he smacks the base of the post. Very, very unlucky. I'm sure we're going to get on to the youth that Hearts are able to bring in the team, but it's definitely the fact that we can bring in Cochrane in the centre of midfield definitely shakes things up a bit, and I'm hoping that brings a better Don Cowie and Arnold Djoum when they come back, because there is a wee bit competition for places, although we are looking threadbare at the moment.
I think it will be interesting to see how Craig Levein manages the Harry Cochrane situation, because there's been a lot of chat, and there was a very good article by Anthony Brown last week in the Evening News with regards to the fact that Craig Levein has actually a very, proven track record with regards to giving youth a chance. Now, as with any other manager, it hasn't always worked, and Hearts have been sometimes maybe a little bit too overzealous with regards to handing out 4 or 5 year deal contracts, and a lot of that's probably, harking back to the days of Vladimir Romanov, but there was instances of that happening under Craig Levein as well, most notably with Stephen Simmons, who seemed to take a bit of a nosedive and sort of form and trajectory in his career once he was given that 4-year deal. So it will be interesting to see how we manage those types of situations now that Craig Levein's further on in his management career, and with the hindsight of looking back on some of those previous players that he's brought in during his previous spell at the club. So I think with regards to that, we'll leave that with regards to the Hearts info, because there really wasn't a lot to say. It was a very workmanlike performance. We matched St Johnstone across the park for midfield battles and 50-50s, which is what you've got to do. I mean, again, it sounds as if I'm a little bit paranoid here and a little bit sceptical about the way the game has been sort of mispresented by certain journalists and pundits, but everything that we'd done, so-called, with the detriment to the football and game on Saturday, is something that St Johnstone are rightly applauded for most weeks when they pick up points. Yeah. So I found that a little bit strange how the narrative for these pundits tended to change just because it was Hearts and not St Johnstone picking up the 3 points in that game. So what we'll do is we'll leave the weekend reaction now, and we'll
I've got one last thing that I would very much like to touch upon.
No problem.
Was just the work rate that we are getting out of Kyle Lafferty now is ridiculous. You look, if anyone who's watched the highlights, Wotherspoon cuts inside to get a shot away, McLaughlin saves, but Kyle Lafferty is in behind him trying to block the ball on the line. I have no looked at the stats, but he's definitely covering a lot more ground than I've seen him cover previously. There's a lot more for the cause than I've seen out of Kyle Lafferty for previous teams. So I think Craig Levein's getting something out of him that I don't think most people expected. I think everyone expected him to be a luxury player up front who would nip in and out of games and not necessarily want to run himself into the ground, which is something that we are getting. It's a huge positive, and I think if we've got that going forward, even the fact that he's letting himself be picked out on the left, he seems to be more than happy to apply himself wherever on the park, as long as we're getting the right results, which is something that a lot of people wouldn't have expected from Kyle Lafferty. So I think he needs to be singled out for some praise after this weekend.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'll probably get another chance to discuss Kyle Lafferty further on into the show. And moving on to the next segment, we thought we'd have a little bit of fun, and it's actually already sparked quite a fair bit of debate with regards to our Facebook messaging over the last couple of hours. Now, I decided to put out a post yesterday evening on social media looking for people to discuss their Edinburgh Select 11. Now, it's actually raised a very interesting question with regards to what the criteria would be for such selections. Are we basing it on current form and who we would want to see play a part of that team in a fixture like tomorrow night, or are we basing it more on reputation and ability? And I think what you'll find is the answers that each of the panellists, and what we'll do is we'll make sure that Sam and Mark's choices as well are also posted on Twitter and Facebook, because Mark picked Callum Patterson for some reason, so I've got to call that out there. I don't know where Mark's been since January, but he's definitely not been wearing a heart strip anyway. So yeah, we'll make sure that we put those selections up there on Facebook and Twitter anyway, and we'll now go on to cover the selections of myself, Sean and Craig. So we'll go on to the goalkeeper first of all. Now, for me, it was 6 and half a dozen of the other with regards to the goalkeepers, regardless of what criteria you're picking. Now, what I'd like for you to do first of all, guys, is give me your thoughts behind your selection. Were you looking primarily on form this season, or have you been basing it on what you know about these players, either through previous spells with other clubs or even at international level? Sean, I'll start with you.
I would say the majority of it has been based on form at the moment, certainly over the course of this season. Yes, it's harder, as I'm sure it was for everyone, to pick for the opposite team because you're not seeing them as regularly, so you do need to go somewhat on recollection. But I think certainly myself, I've seen enough of Hibs that I can form a decent opinion of players. I think there's certain positions where it's a lot easier to pick one player from one team than the other, especially I would say the fullbacks for either team, because the Hearts basically have had makeshifts at left back this entire season. So do you want me to go through the team just now? Are we starting there?
Well, we'll start with the goalkeeper first. What I would say though is I don't think it was that hard to pick players for the other side, but then I'm a classic politician with my answers, so I've went for 5 for each team, and then even a position where I've picked 1 for each player based on whether it's home or away games. But we'll start with the goalkeeping situation first. So Sean, who did you go for with regards to your goalkeeper?
Goalkeeper, I went with John McLaughlin purely because Marciano's had issues recently. You're seeing Laidlaw certainly in the game against Celtic. Since McLaughlin's came in, he's made 1 error in the game against Partick Thistle, which, yes, was an error that almost cost us 3 points. But he's brought a solidity to that back four which has been missing since Neil Alexander left the club. He has played at what we would most likely say is a higher level in the Championship. Craig didn't give me that look.
Is he an international?
He's not an international, no.
Okay.
However, Jack Hamilton got in multiple Scotland squads. So
an internationalist though? He's not.
No, but at that point,
that's all right.
I'm not understanding that point.
No, that point's valid, and I'm only saying that because I'm going to make that very same point probably when we're going to have to talk centre halves. So don't you worry, Craig. I'm sure we can park that for later on in the argument. So you've already opened the door for me to walk through when it comes to centre halves.
I just had him biting so easily. It's too easy.
No, I think certainly goalkeeper position is something that I look at fairly in-depthly, seeing as that was the position I played when I was back in the day. So I definitely think you get more stability from John McLaughlin than you do the other keepers. Yes, you might not get the sometimes erratic better side of certainly Marciano that I've seen some of the saves they can pull out, but I think you're getting a more solid 7 out of 10 keeper on a week-to-week basis from McLaughlin than you are from Marciano.
I have to admit, I kind of cheated a little bit on my selection for goalkeeper, because primarily for the rest of my team, I have picked it on ability, how I feel they'd all mesh well with each other, and based on their reputation. Whereas when it came to the goalkeeper, I have to admit, although I was impressed when I did see Marciano have to get involved last season, primarily when you think back to the Dunfermline game at Easter Road, it was seldom seen. Because Hibs were so strong defensively, and naturally this season he has been deemed sort of surplus to requirements behind Ross Laidlaw, who, as Craig rightly touched on, hasn't exactly set the heather alight with regards to his performances either. But
I think the term he used was Wraith Rovers' third choice.
Yeah, aye.
I think it's a bit unfair on Marciano. He missed the Celtic game because of he was observing something to do with his faith. Is it Yom Kippur, I think it's called? I don't know what it is.
Let's try and not offend.
I know, but I'm saying that so Laidlaw was given the gloves because Marciano missed the game and he done nothing wrong. So to say that Marciano's surplus to requirements is a bit harsh. There's definitely no surplus to requirements.
But if John McGinn missed a game and then he was available again the following week after, do you think he would be on the bench?
That's a different...
Well, no, if Marciano was that highly rated, do you think he would be back in or not?
Well, if Laidlaw's done enough, like any player, if McGinn misses out and McGeoch or Bartley or Slivka does enough to, if they score a hat-trick in the game, McGinn's not coming back in.
The Hibs have still been leaking goals.
I thought this was a best 11.
Well, we're just...
I gave my argument towards McLaughlin.
I've genuinely, I have not seen enough of McLaughlin to form an opinion.
Well, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
If it was Hamilton, it would be easily enough.
If it was Hamilton, it would be Marciano in the team.
I think Marciano's a superb shot stopper. The only issue that I've got with him at times is that he doesn't seem to he doesn't command his box enough. But no, I think when he's in goals, I think the back four is a lot more solid, regardless of whether we're conceding goals or not. I don't think you see individual mistakes come from him like we did with Laidlaw at the weekend. So Marciano for me. Yeah,
I have to agree with Sean. If you were asking me this question 2 months ago, I would probably have to have pumped for Marciano, purely because I wouldn't have felt confident enough with going with Jack Hamilton. Right, we'll now move on to the right back situation then. And
Callum Patterson.
Mark, I hope you're listening. Right, so I've picked David Gray purely based on what I've seen for David Gray since he signed for the club back in 2014. He's been the solid 7 or 8 out of 10 player. He's been captain for a spell. I think that he offers you something. Although his final ball sometimes can be lacking, he does offer you a great engine, gets up and down the park, and he's also really good in the air as well for someone of his size and stature. And that's why I've pumped for Gray. Although I've seen some good performances from Michael Smith, it's been over a shorter length of time, and that's why I have picked David Gray for right back. Craig, who was your pick for right back?
Well, I've went for 2 teams because I got moaned at for barely picking any Hearts
players. Can we try and stick with one so that we can get finished by midnight though?
Right.
Go with the purest one.
I've actually went with a 3-4-1-2, so I've not got a right back.
Okay. Right.
You never had a right back in your other one. You had 4 centre halves.
4 centre halves. Sorry.
I'll tell you what then. Why don't we go with your right wing back then?
Boyle.
Okay.
Well, Boyle's more an RM than an RWB. I don't believe in this 5-3-2 defensive stuff. It's a solid 3 centre halves with 4 in midfield.
So just get down the wings because he's exposed at full back positions. Yep. Okay, I ken how I'm playing against you.
Right, well then, what about your right-sided centre half then?
Darren McGregor.
Yep. Okay.
Don't think you could argue with that.
Okay. Fair enough. Sean?
Do you want me to just go for my whole defence and then we can pick up?
Go on then.
Right, so my whole defence is McGregor, Berra and Hanlon.
Okay.
I feel like to show without the bias, I have to put someone in there.
So you talked about international experience, yet you've left out Effie Ambrose, who's had God knows how many caps for his country before Hanlon and McGregor. Discuss.
I just think Hanlon and McGregor are better centre halves than Ambrose is.
Okay, fair enough. Glad to see you went back on the previous argument then.
Berra's got the international experience in there, so I feel like I've got a good mix. I think
Berra was a political choice, so I get a funny feeling that if you could have went with Ambrose, you would have went with him.
I didn't mind Berra so much. I think he copped quite a bit of flack for the Scotland game and I think he's obviously been quite a, with Hearts' upturning form since Cathro left. He's probably been a big part of that. Maybe not in terms of performances as such, but in terms of being that natural leader. That commanding voice at the back, helping bring on somebody like Suter, who, for what I've seen, has come on quite a bit this season.
Not enough to get in the team, though.
Not enough to get in the team. That's still no.
So, Sean, who was your right back?
My right back was Michael Smith, purely because I think he's possibly been one of Hearts' best players this season, regardless of where he's pitched up on the park. He's a very solid player. He's an international as well. Looks to do a job no matter where he is. Right back's his natural position, so I felt I had to put him there. Yes, there's an argument to put him in at left back because he's played there quite a lot of the season at left back, but no, I think he definitely commands enough to be at right back, considering there's been Whittaker and Gray. I would say probably Gray more than Whittaker has an argument to be in there. However, there's no been consistency in them playing all season. There's been chopping and changing with all the Hibs fullbacks, which definitely gives Michael Smith a foot up, and as I say, he's been a consistent performer this season.
I think what you'll probably find, especially across the back four just now, there's probably a lot of valid arguments either side. I mean, I went purely for Berra and Suter, although I did think about Berra and
right
Handling.
back.
I told you, David, great right back. I went for Berra and Suter, although there was an argument to go with Christoph Berra and Paul Hanlon, but then you're left a bit lopsided with regards to having two left-footed centre-halves, and you've seen how that can affect Scotland. I mean, Scotland are currently playing with four left-sided players across their whole back four, so I don't think that would have done too greatly on that side of things.
I myself, we'll cover the rest of my back four. I had Berra and Suter at centre half as well. I think for me the key thing is the pairing of, and yes, I know I feel like I'm speaking a lot about defensive solidity tonight, but McLaughlin with Berra and Suter, looking at them on a week in, week out basis, there's constant communication between them. And I think that's why we're seeing the performances we're seeing currently, because there is trust between the three of them. So I think that justifies it. Yes, the Hibs centre halves, if it was pretty much the majority of other teams in the league, you were doing a comparison with Hibs and them, I think they probably get the nod ahead. I just think the partnership with the two of Suter and Berra is pretty strong at the moment, whereas there's interchanging of those Hibs centre halves on a weekly basis.
You've done well to drag back that answer after starting the team with four Hearts players, by the way, Sean.
Well, left back is Lewis Stevenson, purely because I think, one, he's a grafter, he's got a lot of experience, and he's a natural left-footed left back, which is something that is, I would say, is vital and gives perfect symmetry to what you've said there. Two left footers, two right footers at the back. Well,
I've went against again my own argument, and this choice will probably anger Hibs fans and bamboozle them more than even Hearts fans, and I went for Stephen Whittaker at left back. I have to be perfectly honest, I found this quite
you were drunk
hard...
when you...
No. I found this quite a hard position to pick for. I was almost willing to just sort of scrap everything and just put in Takis Fisas as just a dream selection. So yeah, I have to be perfectly honest and say that the Stephen Whittaker selection was probably based more on reputation and achievements prior to this season more than anything else, because he has had a bit of a slow start to his second spell at the club. He's been responsible for one or two sort of judgment errors at the back as well, so it'll be interesting to see if he comes onto a game as the season progresses. Craig, moving on to your sort of left midfield, left wing back role, who did you have picked for there?
I'm going to change it because...
On which team?
My proper one, because I've put Barker in and I've seen him twice. And it's,
to be fair,
I was genuinely, I was thinking, I was like, right, we'll try and make it maybe 6-5, 7-4 in Hibs' favour. But I was genuinely struggling. So I'm going to amend my original answer, and I'm going to take out Barker and I'll put in Jamie Walker.
Okay.
And I'm going to change it across my midfield. and I'll move McGeoch a wee bit further forward, and I'll put Callaghan in there beside McGinn.
He's getting awfully political now, or they get that.
Oh, aye.
Because
I think he's suddenly realised an hour into the show that people listen.
No, it's just I think that Callaghan's actually, if we're going on, like you said, you were going on current form, I think Callaghan's been a very good signing since he came into Hearts. He's got himself a couple of goals. He seems to have fitted into the team really well. He's a Hearts fan. He kens what playing for the club's all about. So
he brings passion to it.
Aye, just in case anybody's listening, this hasn't just become a Hearts show. I'm just being nice.
I think, in fairness to everyone, we'll get mock-ups of every team, because I know this is hard to follow going between 3 teams. We will put them up after the show as well, so everyone can see. Especially if you want to go back and listen to the podcast, you can make out our ramblings to see the descriptions behind our teams.
Yeah, and I would say I've already done that, so I've put mine up there, and I've had a bit of a telling off on a few of my selections.
So just
Sam was really disappointed and upset with the Stephen Whittaker selection.
He wasn't the only one.
Just for clarity then, my midfield is now Boyle on the right, Callaghan, McGinn, McGeoch and Walker. So it's so attacking. Like this is a FIFA/FM.
So who offers the sort of stability in terms of defence? It's protecting that sort of back three that are all over the age of about 30 plus.
You're going to score goals. You're going to score goals with that team going forward. So
I thought you might have had Marvin Bartley in there just to offer a little bit of protection when you've maybe played a half decent team.
Well, then I need to drop Callaghan.
Right.
But I think I'm being fair by giving it a 7-4 balance, because I think everybody's front two is pretty much the same.
No,
you've got a front three.
Aye, but at the same time, as we were speaking about with Hearts earlier, I think there's going to be that wee bit more actual fluidity, that there would be people dropping back, maybe making it a 4-4-2, maybe making it a 4-5-1, making it a 4-2-4. It just depends on how the game goes. My midfield three, the way I had it lining up, and there's one name specifically playing in a centre midfield three that you'll see why there's a bit more fluidity to it. But I had McGinn, Bartley, Holden covering the defence, allowing the fullbacks to push on, and Jamie Walker. I think Jamie Walker could probably play in a centre midfield three, but I think it would need one of the players playing in the three ahead of him to drop back to give him that opportunity, because I don't think he would fully take on the defensive role that would be needed to be an out-and-out centre midfielder.
Well, I'd a pretty similar sort of mindset to you with regards to needing to have Bartley in there, although again, you might say I've cheated, but I've sort of picked two slightly different midfields, one with home games in mind and one with the away matches in mind. So I've went with a sort of diamond formation because I feel that gets the best out of the players that I've selected. I've picked Marvin Bartley for the away games, just sitting in front of the two centre halves, but then Arnold June playing as a deep lying playmaker for the home matches. I've got Dylan McGeoch right side of there with John McGinn left side, and then I've got Jamie Walker sort of playing at the tip of the diamond as that sort of number 10 and playing that sort of luxury position that I think he enjoys sort of excelling in when he has played well for Hearts. There isn't really a lot to say with regards to why I picked Dylan McGeoch. I think he is, I'm not going to use that term underrated and unsung because I'm now singing about him, so it's a totally silly it's a silly term to give to someone when you say that they're unsung yet you're singing about them. But he is definitely someone who does not probably get the same level of appreciation as certain other players in that Hibs team, but his impact, I mean, if you just watch him in that second half against Celtic on Saturday, superb. He's a great player, and to be perfectly honest, Hibs fans might not like me saying this, but he's only at Hibs probably due to his bout of injuries early on in his career. He's definitely someone who can play at a higher level than the Scottish Premiership.
I think any Hibs fan you speak to who knows football will tell you that McGeoch is a better player than McGinn. But like you say, it's the injury problem. I've said this for so long, that McGeoch is the one who makes our team tick, and like you say, you've seen that in the second half. I thought he was the best player on the park. He was, the way that he moves the ball and gets out of tight areas is just brilliant.
I think there's been issues with McGeoch dropping out the team due to injuries as well, and then coming back in and not being utilised in the positions he should do. There's been times where he's been playing from the right, which just isn't suited to his game. It's hard for him to come on and be an impact sub as opposed to being able to dictate the play throughout the game. I think that was one of the biggest issues for me not picking him in the team. I think also, well, I'm going to jump forward and go into the strikers now as well. Add a forward three of Stokes from the right, Isma from the left, and Lafferty through the centre. I think you could pretty much interchange the three of those. My main thing was, I don't think you can get the full... You can't get the best of either Lafferty or Isma without the other one being there. I think that's the main reason McGeoch never made it into my team. I think you can... Bartley gives you that defensive side of things, and you're going to get creativity from Walker and McGinn. I think that forward three would definitely get you goals.
Craig, what was your picks in terms of the front positions?
Lafferty and Stokes.
Okay. Do you think that they would mesh well as a front pairing? Or do you think that you're
enough of Lafferty to make a full judgment on that in a heart strip?
Well, I'm used to seeing... if you base it on how he plays for Northern Ireland, then he's a lone guy for Northern Ireland, which means he's good at, getting the ball on the feet and holding it up, which is what Stokes enjoys playing alongside. So no, I think they would... Completely different cultures, laddies. Like, I don't know if they'd enjoy playing with each other, but they might. I think they might hit it off.
Well, I have to admit, I went with him as my pairing as well. And
I don't think you can actually pick anybody else.
Yeah, I found that it wasn't really an embarrassment to Richie's up front. I think that Goncalves is that mercurial sort of striker who can dazzle but frustrate in equal measures. And I still can't really determine who is a good foil for someone like Goncalves. I actually think he does play better with maybe, say, two wide men playing either side of him. What's your thoughts with regards to the forward pick, Sean?
I think it's possibly doing him a wee bit of a disservice that Isma does miss out of teams. I do understand that, and yes, he can be a super frustrating player at times, but at the same time he is fairly consistently getting on the score sheet, pretty much 1 and 2 at the moment, which is something that's hard to come by for both teams. I mean, if you took out Stokes' penalties, his goals aren't anywhere near as impressive as they're looking just now. And yes, you do have to score the penalties, but at the same time, he's not necessarily creating all the penalties. So I think Isma gets a bum hand possibly on missing out on a lot of your teams. But at the same time, I can see the reasons for including Lafferty and Stokes together, especially when I think they could be a foil for each other. But hence why I went for a 3, because I didn't think I could. I think Stokes needs to be in there purely just for as we've seen it before in certain games, that
the impact that he can have.
Aye, he can. If he turns it on, then he turns it on. The frustrating thing for Anthony Stokes is that he doesn't turn it on anywhere near enough. I think the same could possibly be said for Isma. The issue is he's had nowhere near as long a time to actually prove it, and maybe know as many of the big stages as Anthony Stokes has had to prove it as well. So I think that's why he's probably sitting on the bench for a lot of your teams.
Fair enough. Well, I think we'll wrap that up with regards to that segment on tonight's show. We'll now move on very quickly after the next City ads to actually preview tomorrow night's match. Just sort of closing off with regards to the selections that we've made with regards to that Edinburgh Select 11. I just hope that none of us have that sort of hit us in the backside in the same way that Derek Ferguson did last year. Did anyone remember how many Rangers players he picked for the Old Firm team prior to the 5-1 game at Parkhead?
Probably, I'd say probably about 8 or 9.
It was about 6 or 7. Like, it was mental. Like, he was just picking James Tavernier and Kenny Miller, and you know, he had guys playing in the midfield.
Callum Patterson.
Some of the Celtic players. Yeah, he probably had Callum Patterson and Joe Lewis in there as well.
I'm sure Paul Merson had one of them at the weekend. It was like a combined, the other week, it was like combined Man City Liverpool team, and it had 10 Man City players and 1 Liverpool player.
That's about right at the moment.
Who was the Liverpool player?
Pass, it's probably Coutinho.
Manny. I would think Manny at this moment in time.
Possibly.
They need Superman after yesterday.
But yeah, we're just going to go back onto the ads now, and we'll come back with a big preview of tomorrow night's big Edinburgh derby. Stay tuned.
Do you fancy yourself as a bit of a know-it-all when it comes to Hibernian FC? Well, now is the chance to put your Hibs trivia skills to the test. On Sunday, November the 5th, the Famous Five Suite at the Hibs Social Club will host a charity quiz and raffle night in aid of Edinburgh Kids and community radio station Radio Saltire. Fans are encouraged to team up with friends and family to come along and join the fun. There will be appearances from some familiar faces from Hibs past, and guests will have the chance to ask some questions as part of a special Q&A section in the evening. Doors will open at 7 p.m. A buffet will be available with a cash bar in operation also. An engraved trophy will also await the winning team, and there will be other opportunities to win on the evening by purchasing some raffle tickets at the event. Prizes and guests will be confirmed over the coming few days, so keep your eyes peeled for further information. Purchase your ticket now for £5 per person or £25 for a team of 5, with payment taken at the event. Book your place today by emailing scott_macintosh1983@hotmail.co.uk. That is scott_mcintosh1983@hotmail.co.uk.
Music for Scotland. This is Radio Saltire.
Welcome back to Monday Night Football on Radio Saltire. So now to the most important part of the show, guys, okay? We're going to preview tomorrow night's match. Now, I thought we would start by discussing the fact that there seems to be a bit of a hoodoo over Hearts with regards to since this show started. Now, we actually recorded our first show with Saltire maybe about 2 or 3 weeks after we last beat Hibs 2-1 at Tynecastle.
I think it was 2 weeks.
Aye, and we actually haven't beaten Hibs in the 3 years since then. Obviously, that...
You know what, a 26, 27 year streak and never seen Hearts win at Easter Road?
I've seen Hearts win at Easter Road. I've just not been in attendance. However, I think you neglect the fact that I played football to quite a high standard at youth level, so was very rarely
you've
at
never
games.
ever mentioned it, ever.
Aye, well,
So yeah,
busy playing in stadiums instead of.
I thought we would just discuss that hoodoo first of all, and the fact that it has been 3 very long years, and we've had a few times where we've had to come in here and obviously lick our wounds after a bit of a beating. There's no way I was going to play the impartial host tonight. I'm sorry if I've been using the term "we" too often. You can always give that back as feedback, okay? But I'm pretty sure everyone knows by now that I'm very much a staunch Hearts guy. So let's first of all just discuss. Don't look at each other like that.
You didn't act like that a lot of the time.
Look, just because I'm organising a Hibs fundraiser does not mean that I'm a Hibs man in any way, okay? As I keep saying, I've got
how
the
many
tattoo
Hearts
to prove
interviews you organised recently as well?
No, the Hibs guys are just being a bit more forthcoming with regards to that, that's all.
I'm going to see if that tattoo wipes off later.
So I thought we'd first of all talk about how we feel that the team should set up from the get-go. So Craig, I'm going to start with you. How do you think Neil Lennon needs to start this match in terms of his shape to avoid what's been happening recently, especially as we already mentioned, these momentum killers we lose in the first goal? What do Hibs do at the start of the game to make sure that doesn't happen?
Well, as we kind of spoke about before we came on air, I'm in two minds about the way that I would go if I was Lennon. One is a 4-4-2, the other one's a 4-5-1. Now, there's pros and cons to both. I think that and obviously the game's not played on paper, but if you look at it on paper, we've got for me a stronger, certainly more physical midfield than Hearts do. And for me, that's where the game's going to be won and lost. If we can take control of the midfield, then I would expect Hibs to get a win. But it's how we set up that midfield, because I think that we need to have pace. We need to have either one of or both Boyle and Barker playing. But I also feel like we would need to have Bartley in there. Now, if Bartley plays, we can't go 4-4-2 because McGinn and or McGeoch are totally nullified when playing alongside Bartley rather than playing in front of him. So for me, it's about keeping Lafferty quiet, one, because he's one of these players who you might not notice him in a game like like a St Johnstone or a Kilmarnock or a Partick Thistle, but these games are the ones where he really wants to make an impact. Like Stokes, the two of them are big game players, and keeping him quiet is essential. I think Walker's got a point to prove in derbies as well. He's been pretty quiet in the last few. So keeping those two quiet whilst, you know, imposing our own game, especially in the midfield area, is key for us to get a win. But how he sets that up, personally, I think he has to go with 5. But then that might nullify Stokes playing up front on his own. So it's...
Now, that was the easy question. I'm now going to counteract that with the hard one. Now, what for you would strike fear in you with regards to how Hearts set up, and how do you think Hearts could set up which could potentially play into Hibs' hands?
I wouldn't be comfortable facing Hearts if Lafferty and Ismar are playing up front together. You know, I think if Hearts set up similar to the weekend with Lafferty coming in off the left, depending on who we play at right back, you know, I would have full confidence in Gray or Whittaker to deal with Lafferty coming on, you know, from a wide area. Hearts setting up, I think if Hearts come out and try and play, then that would play into our hands. Like I said earlier on, people know how difficult Hibs can make it for themselves trying to break teams down. So if Hearts trying to come and open up a bit and try and play football early on, especially if we go with the 2 wingers, you know, I think we could get a lot of joy out of that. So Hearts opening up and coming at us and trying to, you know, dictate the game and play the game in our half, that would be their own downfall, in my opinion.
Now, would you say that, given that we've already talked about how susceptible Hibs are to cross balls and set plays, that has been a big sort of Achilles heel for Hibs so far this season, would you say that in fact Hearts are probably the ideal team to play against, given that, you know, pace and width is probably 2 things that haven't generally been involved in Hearts play, you know, for the majority of matches so far, both under Cathro and Craig Levein?
Yeah, and I think for set pieces as well, there's not, you know, apart from Lafferty and Berra, there's not too many bigger type players in the Hearts side, you know, that'll go and attack set plays, you know, whereas we've got, if Bartley plays, you know, and David Gray plays, Ambrose, Hanlon, you know, there's 4 against 2. So that, for me, that should be easily nullified. My issue would be possibly crosses coming in for deep on the right hand side, allowing Lafferty to get the run on to attack them. But it's a weird one in that, you know, usually in the past it's been Hearts that have been the team with pace and Hibs have been the team to try and set up to try and play their way around it. Whereas tomorrow it looks like it could be the opposite with Hibs, if we go with the 2 wingers, really, you know, forcing Lafferty and, I mean, I don't know who would play on the right. Would it likely be Walker playing on the right?
No, it'll probably be Milinkovic.
So Milinkovic, and I mean, I don't know
depending on the formation. I think Hearts, it's entirely pivotal on who's available and fit to play in the centre of the park. I think that one will determine how Hearts set out to play at the start, but it'll have a huge factor on the formation as well.
I think for me, like, thanks for hijacking my question, Sean. But
you're welcome. You asked me a question.
Driving Lafferty and Milinkovic, or whoever plays on the right, whether it be Walker, driving them back into their own half is vital as well, because then it means that there's not an opportunity for them to break. If they're hanging about the halfway line and Hearts get the break of the ball, you know, there's always. But if we're forcing them to defend within sort of 35 yards, it'll be difficult for Hearts to catch us on the counter as well, especially with players that don't have that, you know, breaking pace like a Boyle or a Barker does.
I'm going to sort of bring you in very shortly, Sean, with regards to the Hearts formation, but I just wanted to sort of make this point. First of all, I actually think that with regards to how Hearts set up, it's the actual preparation and team talk and the way in which Craig Levein wants to get his ideas across to this team, whoever plays and starts tomorrow, is going to be just as vital as the team selection itself and the formation and tactics. There is going to be, Craig Levein has been at the club for the last 3 years, so therefore has overseen this 7-game undefeated spell for Hibs, and I think it's going to be vital that he doesn't allow that to lead to us potentially coming out there and playing too open a game for the first quarter, which, as Craig's probably rightly pointed out, could potentially play in their hands. But with that being said, Sean, do you think that there is an opportunity there for Hearts to potentially push Hibs, press them high up the park, and therefore make Hibs go direct, which would play into Hearts' hands in terms of, you know, that being, you know, food and drink for Berra and Suter?
I see it being possible. I don't see it being likely. I think probably Hearts will go there to try and soak up pressure early on. I wouldn't be surprised if Levine lines up in a way that it's see you 60 minutes at 0-0 and then try and use impact players from the bench. Like I say, it would probably surprise me if Milinkovic started. Probably, I mean, we saw the impact he could have coming off the bench away at Partick Thistle. I think you could get something from him possibly doing that type of job again. For me, a big part in the lineup is going to be the fullback positions if Conor Randall comes back in. I mean, we've seen Conor Randall's just came back from a sending off. He was out for the last game. I think he's one of those players who could be brilliant in a derby or could possibly go a wee bit over the line in a derby. I think he's a player you'd want on your team in the derby, but it might cost you because
he could be definitely could be looking to wind up potentially.
He could be a liability in that he's almost too up for it. I think there's going to be a few players like that in the Hearts team. I think Callaghan could possibly play into that as well. Lafferty, if the fans are getting on his back, if it's going his way early on, I fancy he'll have a wonder game. If not,
yeah, that is an interesting point that you raised there with regards to Lafferty, and I found it interesting that Craig, for the outside looking in, has highlighted Lafferty as someone to fear based on the fact that he believes he'll be up for the big occasion. I would actually find that, I've very rarely been disappointed by Kyle Lafferty with regards to either his ability or his application since he put on a maroon jersey, but his performance at Parkhead, I mean, you sometimes look at that for a banter aside and you go, well, it was great how he was noising up the Celtic players and the fans, but let's be honest, he was walking a tightrope for the first minute and he could very easily have been sent off in that match if we hadn't brought him off after about an hour of the game. So I think it is going to be interesting to see if he's able to put that sort of laddish sort of part to his game to good use and actually noise up the players in a positive way and make sure that he's actually positively bringing out the best in some of these younger teammates in the Hearts team, or whether he will affect, because let's be honest, given the press reports recently regarding his personal life over the last couple of weeks, there's naturally going to be that sort of sidey theatre that the Hibs fans will play in, and they'll want to get on his back with regards to that. He's going to have to show a steely side to him to make sure that he can apply himself in the correct manner, because it is Hearts are going to need him not only in an offensive manner but also when we're defending set plays as well.
I'm hoping we're starting to see a more mature Kyle Lafferty, and certainly in the way that he's presenting himself on the pitch. I've said the application he's putting into the effort in his games recently has been a different planet to the Kyle Lafferty that we had previously in any club. If you see him in his time at Rangers, he was that luxury player who just floated in and out the game and could make something happen, but wasn't he busting a gut to try and chase back to their fullbacks ran by him? He didn't really give a job. Whereas nowadays, I think especially Craig Levine and Austin McPhee, I've definitely, you can see it in all of the celebrations and goals recently, they are having a huge factor on his life, I would say, at this moment in time with everything going on. And I think he's going to do everything he can to possibly repay them. I think discipline will definitely be a huge part of that. So I would say, if of the likely people to get a sending off, no doubt 10 minutes into the game I'm going to get proved wrong on this, but I would say he's definitely one of the candidates I would have least fears about, because I do think he is trying to show maturity and show that he can be a leader in this team, because it's somewhat last chance saloon with Kyle Lafferty at this point as well. He needs to have a good time at Hearts, because otherwise where does he go from there? I think he's looked a player that I think a lot of people have wanted from him for a while, and to let himself down in a game like that tomorrow would be a huge setback.
I'm going to pose the same question to you as I did with Craig earlier then. Yep. So if you were to pick something that Hibs could do that could play into Hearts fans, pick something, and then pick something else that would also give you that fear factor. You know, it's something that Hibs could do either in terms of the way that they set up their stall or a particular player that they start.
I think if they were to go possibly with a forward three of Barker, if they were to go with Barker and Boyle and getting the pace, that can be an issue. Pace is always an issue. The one thing that has certainly up against Michael Smith set my nerves at ease a wee bit is he dealt fairly comfortably with Michael O'Halloran at the weekend, running down his side. I think that's a big reason why Jamie Brandon played left back as opposed to right back, to try and stay as far away from him as possible. I think if we did one Conor Randall, you don't know how we would deal with someone who's got blistering pace. Same with if Jamie Brandon's in there. I don't know if you've got full confidence in someone flying at him. So I think that could be a possible scary point in the game if you were getting if you're getting pace up against someone you're either afraid might give away a yellow card or silly fouls in a certain part of the pitch you didn't want to be giving it away, or against an experience.
So we're talking about naturally the full-back positions, but also the fact that, you know, we're not quite sure where we see Conor Randall maybe playing tomorrow. He will be starting, but
I would think he would be starting.
If you were to pick between full-back or centre midfield, where is he most needed? So not where he fits in better, because I think we all know where he probably fits in best in the Hearts team, but where is he most needed tomorrow night, given our lack of options in midfield?
I'm not sure. I think seeing that the first 20 minutes out of Jamie Brandon was a stark contrast to the rest of the game. I think his composure on the ball is brilliant. Personally, I think he'll probably move into the midfield at some point in the coming couple of years. I don't know how good he is defensively to play at full-back, so part of me wants Randall there, but at the same time I think he could provide a bit of steel to the centre midfield, which would possibly be needed. So it's a toss-up really. It's more what position is looking weaker with him not in it compared to where do you want to play him. So I'm not entirely sure. I think it depends on who's fit in the centre midfield. If we're going with we've got Buabin, Callaghan and Cochrane, I'd probably put him in the midfield and try and do what we had done previously with the front three of Walker, Lafferty and Isma, because I think that gets the best out of all of them, and try and shore up the centre midfield with three in there. But
do you think, highlighting again the fact that we maybe are not the biggest team, which kind of goes against what we normally say with regards to a Craig Levein Hearts team, but would you say that there's maybe scope for Shellac to be playing at left back, or do you think the fact that Boyle would probably start right mid for Hibs mean that we really can't afford to play him there? Do you think that there's even scope for him to play midfield, or would you say that looking at the team selection, and we talked about where Conor Randall is needed most, do you think the easiest way of answering that is to say who would you start with in your team, Cochrane or Jamie Brandon at left back?
I think first off on the Shellac situation, I didn't see any situation as to where he starts. I think, much like the majority of the fans, I think Craig Levein's somewhat got the fear with him that yes, he can probably come on 75th, 80th minute and do a job to get you over the line. I don't know about over the 90 minutes. So I'd be very surprised to see him come in the team once again, as I say, cue him being in the starting lineup. I think it is, especially with Cochrane being so young, never played in a derby before. We've seen how he's held up to the physical battles. Yes, he's a trier, but he's physically just not there yet. It's, have you got the bodies around him in the centre of midfield to allow for him? Full-back position's a bit different, and yes, Jamie Brandon has got a bit of pace, and I fancy would be fine in possession. Although finding the pass was maybe one of his issues at the weekend. I definitely think him with the ball at his feet would be fine. It's how he would actually cope with the defensive side of the game. If he was playing, especially playing on his weak side, a side that he's never really played on at left back, I'd be more confident in the fact that he's got Christoph Berra playing alongside him. But I'd probably say there's more chance of Smith moving at the left back and Randall going to right back, and then Cochrane going into the midfield. I just don't know how the rest of the team shapes around that. As I say, there's so many variables in the Hearts team at the moment, whether Milinkovic starts or whether you use him as an impact.
I think you're right that there is, but it seems to be that out of Hearts it's almost born out of a little bit of desperation and necessity and lack of proper options. Whereas Craig, I think it would be fair to say that Hibs have more strength and depth with regards to their squad overall just now on paper. Where do you see the major selection headaches for Neil Lennon? Now, there's been a little bit of chat throughout the course of today with regards to the availability of certain players like Anthony Stokes and Danny Swanson. So we're going to have to just assume that there's no gamesmanship involved in that, and that, you know, that is serious on Lennon's part. Now, if Stokes was not available, and given that Simon Murray's game time has been a bit more limited over the last few weeks, would you say that there's the potential scope there for maybe even Martin Boyle to be starting up top? Or, you know, where do you see Neil Lennon having a contingency plan if Stokes is not fit?
I think it would be Simon Murray without a shadow of a doubt. There's no way that you could go in and play Boyle up front, because you're completely nullifying any impact that he's going to have on the game, because he's going to have the best chance of making an impact out wide. To put him in the centre, and like you say, if Hearts decide to press us high and they go it long, Berra's going to lap that. Berra especially will lap that up all day long. Another long ball up to Boyle, he'll not even need to jump. Do you know what I mean? It'll just be a case of just not take it back, try again. So I think it would have to be Simon Murray. I think it's too soon to start somebody like Ollie Shaw. As a two, you could, but up front on his own, I don't think he's anywhere near ready for that at this stage yet.
Okay. Well, I think that's probably most of the stuff that we need to cover with regards to, you know, certain sort of selection problems for both managers. We'll now move on to the fans, okay? Because I think that the fans are going to have a bit of a sort of major say in how this game is played out. Now, I tend to find that when you're the favourites, and I think Hibs will be, albeit form kind of favours Hearts slightly in terms of results recently, I would say that Hibs built up through their performances over the last 2 or 3 years in the derbies. I think there's a bit more continuity with regards to the Hibs squad. I think although Hearts have brought in a few more Hearts-minded people in at the club, and they've got people that maybe know what it means to play in a derby now, compared to maybe say this time last year or last season, Hibs still have those Corey players who were brought in under Stubbs who just seem to be able to raise their game for those matches. You also add that in with Neil Lennon's ability to sometimes know what it takes to win a game like that as well. So you look at last season, he set up the team to go direct when they were playing at Tynecastle because the pitch was just unplayable, whereas Cathro decided that Hearts would try and, you know, play their way through the midfield, which was never going to work. And then when they got them back to Easter Road, you know, they just blitzed us, you know, the first half, and even into the second half it could have been 4 or 5. With that being said, that can sometimes heighten expectation amongst supporters, and that sometimes means that the supporters in normal circumstances where they would cheer the team on can sometimes sit on their hands and just wait for the first goal to go in. Would you say that it's important for Hibs fans to probably temper those expectations and actually accept that the Hearts team now under Craig Levein, albeit are not flashy, are going to be a different proposition to that you've faced under, say, Robbie Neilson or Ian Cathro?
I don't think there'll be any expectations for Hibs fans at all come a derby. We all know what our record in Edinburgh derbies is like. And for me, it's the first time, and for what I think in my lifetime, that we're going into a derby, and we went into a few derbies with the core of a team who knows what it takes to not only dig in, but also win a derby. You know, how many Hibs teams in the past would have crumbled in the 2-2 game? You know, how many Hibs teams in the past would have, even that 0-0 game last season at Tynecastle, would have lost a late goal? or all the talk about the performance. How many times we said, right, we'll get them at Easter Road, and we've never done it. Whereas last season we did, and like you say, we blew you away completely. So it's, for me, that there's never an expectation when it comes to derbies. I think the Hibs crowd will be up for it, as we have been. The atmosphere at the 3-1 game last season was probably the best I've heard Easter Road in a long time. The singing section being moved to the famous 5 upper, we'll really see how that plays out in a game like this. But it could be, because last season that section were vital in getting an atmosphere spreading all the way around Easter Road. Now you've got the fans who traditionally sat in the east, before there was a singing section. They'll be up for it, and you might find that the atmosphere will spread. There's always something different about a midweek derby under the lights. It just feels completely, it's better than 12:30 on a Sunday afternoon. Under the lights, sold out crowd, on the telly. Fans will have had the chance to go in the pub for a few hours before it, get a few beers down them, which then leads to you being a bit more loud, should we say. But no, I think there'll be no expectations on the part of Hibs fans. We know exactly what it's like to go into this game with expectations and end up falling flat on our face.
Sean, I'll offer you the same question, but I'll sort of throw in my own sort of tuppence worth with regards to this as well. I think that, given what's happened, a lot of Hearts fans will feel that it's right for us to play, blood and thunder football. And I think that will probably be something that Craig Levein has no problem in sending his players out to do. What I would say, though, is, although Craig Levein has got a very favourable derby record as a player and manager, as a manager I can only really think of 2 occasions where we beat Hibs by more than 1 goal. And we did tend to approach derby games, especially Easter Road, with regards to almost feeling our way into the match, and as you've said before, soaking up a bit of pressure, and then when we feel that we're in the ascendancy, maybe then make more of a positive change, maybe even put a second man up front. Do you think, given that we probably will start with that 4-5-1 formation, as we saw on Saturday, and potentially Kyle Lafferty out wide left, do you think that it's very important for the Hearts fans to remain patient and just sort of make sure that they're cheering the team on, make sure that we're behind the team when potentially we might be, seeing Hibs have quite a lot of the ball, particularly maybe in the first 20-30 minutes?
I think it's definitely important that Hearts fans are patient. I do see us playing like we have previously and setting out our stall and then growing into the game as it goes on. I think the bench can be a huge factor for Hearts, as we even seen with Ewan Henderson coming off the bench. He's one of those 3 bursting forward for St Johnstone. So I think if Hearts are going to win the game, it's probably going to be in the later stages of the game, as opposed to us getting 2-0 up early on. So it's important for the Hearts fans to be behind the team and back in regardless of the scoreline early on. I think one of the biggest factors compared to last season, especially that last game, the 3-1 game, Hearts are pretty much an entirely different team. There's only going to be 2 possible players starting this game that started that game, which would be Isma and Jamie Walker. I think that team was void of personality and players that the team could actually hook into, the fans could hook into. Whereas now, Jamie Walker, yes, has had his detractors recently for the off-field antics, should we say, and the question marks over his contract situation. But come Derby Day, everyone's going to be singing Jamie Walker songs. Everyone's going to be singing Kyle Lafferty songs. I'm pretty sure Ross Callahan's going to be up for it and be getting the fans behind him. There's so many more people for fans to latch onto that we've not had in a long time, since we had Hartley and Scatchell. And yes, it's down to them to cement a wee bit of legacy and go and do something, but I think there's more for the fans to be enthusiastic about going into this game than we've had in a wee while, probably since the Championship season.
Perfect. Well, that just leaves me to just ask you to very quickly just round off who you would start with, your preferred 11 in formation, and also give me your predictions on the score.
You can go first.
Thanks for that, Craig. What I think Levine will pick, or what I would go with?
What you would go with?
I don't know. What's the fully fit squad? No, right. We'll go with McLaughlin in goals. Obviously, I would say Randall right back, Berra, Suter, Smith left back. I would go with Walker, Milinkovic, Cochrane and Callahan, probably in more of a flat 4 than we've had previously, and then Lafferty probably playing off Isma. I think Lafferty, as I said before, giving us the legs in chasing back. I don't think you'll get that for Isma, but I think giving Isma a foil off to hold the ball up if we are soaking up pressure early on would be important. And I think Hearts, the hoodoo needs to be broken at some point. Hearts are going to edge it 1-0.
Okay, Craig, let's go to you.
Marciano, Whittaker, Ambrose, Hanlon, Stevenson, Boyle, McGeoch, Bartley, McGinn, Barker, Stokes.
And the score?
2-0.
2.
Oh, come on. You don't. 2-0 to Hibs.
Okay.
We win this midfield, Hibs will win the game. That is my own opinion. If we can get control of the midfield, we will win the game.
I totally see your point. I genuinely think I would be surprised at this point either way if it's more than a 1 goal margin.
But if Hearts get an early goal, if we give Hearts a goal head start, we will not get anything from the game.
I have to admit, Sean, when you are rounding off your team, the only change I would make, and this is going to open me up for a fair bit of criticism, but I would take out Milinkovic and start with Boabin. And I would go for a fairly tight and compact midfield 3 with Boabin playing just behind Cochrane and Callahan, and then offering Walker and Lafferty out on the wings. Now I would like to see that as more of a 4-5-1/4-3-3 formation, and hopefully that's how it would come about during the game. My head says 0-0. I have to admit, I do see this being quite a drab affair. I think that will potentially play into our hands more than it would Hibs, but my heart does say 2-0 Hearts. So that is how I'm going to leave it this evening. But please do get in touch with us with your prediction, guys. We'll have a few posts up with regards to our team selections on Twitter later on this evening, also on Facebook as well, so make sure to reply to that. Leave any comments with regards to your feedback on tonight's show as well. It can be found on Twitter at MNFitba, so that's MNFITBA. And I hope you have all enjoyed today's show. I hope you have enjoyed me taking over from Sam. I promise that it will just be a temporary measure. Sam will be back in charge again next week. And
I said that, but now that's in the space of 2 weeks. That's me had a shot and you had a shot.
Aye, and let's be fair, Sam's not the be all and end all of everything.
I'm not going to get involved in this. I really would prefer it if he came back, to be perfectly honest.
Sibling rivalry.
Exactly. But thanks again for listening, guys, and stay tuned for a night of music on Radio Saltire.